Well, Ros Croucher hasn't shrunk, and she hasn't stopped being a redhead. I'm a replacement for Ros tonight, who unfortunately couldn't be here. You'll see in your program that Professor Croucher, who's the President of the Human Rights Commission, was meant to be delivering this thanks, and I'm sort of the fill-in, a poor man's Ros Croucher, I suppose you could say. But of course, it's hard at the end of the night to say very much because so much has been said, and there have been a lot of thank yous and a lot of comments. And I haven't been asked to give my personal reflections, and I'm not going to try and repeat some of the amazing sentiments we've heard. Thank yous are hard. Of course, for me, it's difficult because it is at the end of the evening. But of course, as the Chief Justice made the comment, as another lawyer and as an ex-judge, I can say it's very hard to stop us from talking when you get us up here. I just should say a couple of things. The first thing is that I first met Ahmet, it must have been very soon after he came to Australia, and he came to see me in Chambers and we started having a conversation, and there was sort of an instant rapport as I think we progressed. I'm not going to say he's my uncle because he's not that old, but as we progressed across all sorts of topics, and I think you'll agree with me that what he's created in the fulfilment of it being tonight for many of us is quite an extraordinary band of brothers and sisters. And I think we should thank Ahmet very much and all of his team. I'd also like to thank all the people who got up and spoke because it's not easy and the sentiments were obviously very heartfelt. The only thing I felt that was negative about it was that I've just taken on the presidency of the Anti-Discrimination Board of New South Wales, and if all of this sentiment comes good and is put into effect, I'm going to be out of a job. Seriously, it would be a wonderful thing if there was no need for an anti-discrimination board for any of the grounds that are covered. I've also just been on the Religious Freedoms panel, which has given its report to the Prime Minister, and it would be a wonderful thing if there was no need to even have those discussions. If all of you here went out and did everything that you feel and everything you've said, then really and truly, it would be interesting to see what happens in our country, and the fact that human rights commissions and anti-discrimination boards would be a wonderful concept, which brings me, they wouldn't be needed, which brings me a little bit now to the other person I want to thank, and that's the Chief Justice. I'm sufficiently old that I can recall having the Chief Justice address me when he was still at the bar, and I can tell you that he was as persuasive then as he is now. He didn't always win, but he was pretty persuasive. And he made a couple of comments tonight that I'm not going to try and summarise what he said, but I do want to thank him because he put a lot of thought and effort into what he said tonight, and it covered a lot of ground. But a few thoughts that I took away were these. When I started in the law as a barrister and then as a judge, diversity really only meant talking about how many women got onto something. Today, it's not really that much of a comment anymore when a woman is appointed a judge, or certainly when a woman gets admitted to the bar or does many other things. And we're travelling on the path where diversity is meaning much more than just gender equality. And we're travelling on the path, hopefully, where there won't be any need even to consider the need for diversity, and it will be all of those that Australia is and all of those who represent Australia. Now, there's been a lot of talk about how many people were born outside this country and how much it's changed, and that brings me to the other common element of tonight is food. When my parents first came, I was born in Australia and I'm also from a migrant family, and what I can remember when I started off was the best food in Australia at the time was craft processed cheese and Devon. Boy, have we come a long way, and that's because of the amazing number of different cultures that have come to this country and how important the sharing of food has been. So that's that's what this is tonight, and I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank everybody who's shared meals together and brought all of your food to Australia. Because when you think I'll share one other thing with you about how times have changed. I'm a sci-fi person. I've always been a sci-fi person, and how times have changed are these. When I was at school and I watched Star Trek religiously every week, the idea that you could walk up to a door and it opened was science fiction. Think about it. So if we're going into the future, the idea that we are all deeply Australian, as those wonderful children sang a song that always makes me cry when I hear it from the first time I heard it, I am, you are, we are Australian. that is going to be in the same character of science fiction in a very, very short time. So, Tom, thank you. Thank you for what you've said. Thank you for reminding us about the importance of the independence of the judiciary, which is something that Australia takes for granted. I can assure you that that judges do try very hard to do their best. They try very hard. And they do reflect and will continue to reflect the best of the rule of law. Now, that brings me only to one other thing about the fact that we all know, I don't know how it didn't get mentioned tonight. My husband, David, who's here with me, was very involved in the other aspect of the fact that so many people tonight have come from diverse backgrounds. Why has no one mentioned Section 44? We're standing here in the Parliament House of New South Wales, not the Australian Parliament. What about the fact of all of those Australians who, with the dual citizenship, that have gone through the agonies federally because of the fact that Australia is what it is? It's quite extraordinary when you think about it. And that, of course, has made a big difference to our political scene in the last year. But Tom didn't mention that at all, I notice. So, Tom, thank you very much for the thoughts you put in tonight. Thank you for the speech. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for sharing all of those thoughts from the politicians. You know, every now and then one realises how lucky we can be to have people of such depth of thought representing us in the Parliament. Thank you for all of the people from I don't know, the only complaint I have is how come the media always get the first round of recognition? The whole list of all the wonderful... But I hope the media continue to promote multicultural Australia and the importance of it. So I'm only going to conclude by, I want to thank Ahmet again and all of his team from Affinity, because it's a service you're providing to the whole of Australia in what you do tonight. So thank you, and thank you, Tom, for being the representative here of the great and good of the Australian judiciary.